Good gosh, all goshy. Oshkosh bagosh. Sometimes I need to look around my room. I want to have a clean room before I do a comedy podcast, because if you don't have a clean room, you have no right to do a podcast. Well, if that were true, nobody would be doing a podcast, because I've been to these podcasters' rooms and they're dirtier than a dog's behind. A rabid dog's behind. Hi, and welcome to Nick Flanagan Weekly. This is Nick. I'm your friend, and I'm here for the day and the night. I'll be here forever. I'm 38 years young, 400 years old. Looking at pens, looking at all the beautiful fetishes of my room, pens, paper, webcam, everything's here. How the hell was your weekend? I hope it was a wonder wall. Mine was a wonderful time. I got to pet a cat or two, eat some sandwiches. I feel like I got a lot of free lunches. Had a confrontation, went to some doctor's appointments. Wow. Did you enjoy Aisha as my first guest, Aisha Brown? I thought she was just great. And she's very, very intelligent. We both have the same condition known as adult hypertension deficit disorder, ADHD. I cannot always remember what it stands for, ADD. Let me tell you something. If you're with somebody and they got holes in their underwear, they might have ADD. Lots of murder going on. But we're not going to talk about that. The news is replete with all kinds of crazy stories. Bob Woodward wrote a book about Trump, and there's everyone's freaking out. It seems to me that this might not be a conspiracy by the left to bring down Trump, but actually a conspiracy by Republicans within his own candidate, within his own cabinet, to topple their leader and take over with a super boring bad guy like Mr. Pence. And when I say bad guy, I don't mean he'd punch me in the face. I just mean he'd give a woman the electric chair if she had an abortion, if he had his way. But sometimes I just long for that electric chair. If we're not talking a lethal dose, and it's kind of more of a massaging thing, then I might be in for it. But yeah, I love talking to Aisha. It's quite uncomfortable talking about things like race and Louis C.K. and all that stuff for me, because I say things that I feel dumb about immediately. And I also respect her, and I worry that in my boundaryless conversational style at times that I step into a landmine and kaboom, there goes my leg flying across the room. And why is this rabid dog eating it? I didn't mean to say it had a dirty behind, and it's getting back at me by eating my leg that was blown off by a landmine. That was what Columbus said as soon as he arrived to America. Land, mine. And that's why they call them landmines. And that's why they're viewed as being so bad to use in war, was because genocidal maniac Christopher Columbus was the one who created them, and we should burn, destroy his statues. But if they're beautiful, we should hide them and keep them, because beautiful art must be appreciated no matter who it honors. Which is part of why I did this podcast, and I make it so intentionally beautiful. Because no matter what badness can happen, we will always have the beauty of this moment. And I think that's why comedy is flawed when people... I'm not even recording this on Logic.
Oh, no.
It's fine. I have a second file I'm recording it on. That's why this exists. I forgot to press play on one of the programs I normally record on, and that's why I record on two programs. Ladies and gents. Yeah, I talked to Aisha. I deleted all the parts where I talked about my old jokes because I felt like that was very incriminating. And if you want to incriminate me over my old jokes, look them up. Tell me which ones you had a problem with, and I'll probably apologize. But it did get me thinking about how, much like I saw Antifa in action in Europe a good 10 years prior to anyone in the U.S. discussing them, who wasn't aware of the situation in Europe, that is. I also experienced being censored by, quote-unquote, the PC police quite a bit in my time in the punk rock garden as a worm feeding on the dirt of the punk garden. Turning this piano down. It's kind of overwhelming. But yeah, when I was in my band, I've always written very stupid lyrics, and the younger you are, the further you're willing to go with what you're saying, because you've experienced so little and you think that your heart is in the right place, that's when you're most likely to say insane things. Unless you're Owen Benjamin. And then you just say whatever, whenever. So there was a time we were supposed to play a place called Peterborough, Ontario. We were banned. They didn't let us play. They thought our band was, for what it's worth, because this is often used as a shield, but it was, we had 2 females in the band for a long time. Queer person, whatever, No POC, so we didn't get the, I think that you can have the most diverse group of people in the world, but if there ain't no POC, you're not winning no awards from the empathy union. You know what I'm saying? And anyway, but we had this group that was like clearly people who were in the know about principles, and they thought that I was being silly in most of my lyrics, and most of the lyrics were obviously satirical enough that I rarely felt challenged, or they were so dumb that people realized that, yes, they must be satirical. But occasionally we had places like Peterborough where we were banned from a venue, and they thought we were tough. I think there was an idea that we were some sort of group of tough punks who just would, kick in your door and spray you with beer and steal your cat and then put your cat in the freezer and take your cat out of the freezer just 3 minutes later. So it wouldn't be dead, but we would torture. But that's not us. We wouldn't do that. I'm saying this is what people thought we were. And we were also, there was certain, when we did go to Europe, I think there were a couple of times they couldn't get a show for us, but and we thought it was funny. We didn't really take it personally. We didn't get all up in arms about censorship. We thought it was lame. But nowadays, if we had thought it was lame and freaked out and made it all about free speech, we would be good friends with Gavin McInnes. We would be good friends with all of these people who, because people don't want them to talk, they're personally affronted because they have a pathological need to be heard by as many people as possible. Nobody was there for Insane Clown Posse when DreamWorks dropped The Great Malenko from their label. They just had to suffer because they were clowns. Nobody was there for Mike Diana. Mike Diana drew gross pictures and had a trial. He probably had some people there. I don't know. Can we just be nuanced about what free speech really means when we truly have examples of free speech being completely ruined in other countries? Free speech being taken away is the Turkish Prime Minister imprisoning teachers. Free speech being taken away is not someone losing a stream of income on YouTube. Because if you're making money off YouTube, you're in the 1%. Not happy that I got back to this topic. I don't know how I got here. But I feel like we're reaching the end of the episode. If you have comments or questions, please email weeklypodcast@gmail.com. WEAKLY. Thank you to Pavan for the technical help. Thank you to my mom. She bought me steak frite last night. Let me know if you'd like to hear tomorrow about a confrontation that I got in yesterday. Aggressiveness can be a side effect of adult Dapinson disorder. And I think sometimes I have an overwhelming response to feeling wronged. And I wrote an article for Now Magazine that came out today about Sistema, which I mentioned the other day, and the reneging on funding that happened. They're a really great program. So if you just check out my Facebook or check out my Twitter, I've linked to the article. It's at the Flans on Twitter. And I'd love it if you checked out Sistema. And if you could donate to them, if you so feel. They're a wonderful music program that is helping out kids of a lower income in needful areas of Toronto, Parkdale, Scarborough, Jay and Finch. So, yeah. I'm wearing red today, but I'm not angry. And I hope the rest of your day involves expensive sea salt.